Hello. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today as I tell you a little bit about the Library Committee's idea for a new AV production club for third and fourth grade students. So, the objectives for this club would be that third and fourth grade students will get to produce a collaborative podcast by planning the topics, researching the subjects, writing scripts, performing in the show, and editing the recordings. Through this club, they will also gain technological skills by operating the production equipment and using the video editing software. I have included the Texas School Library standards that this program would meet, which includes meeting information literacy. So, through the research that kids would be doing for this club, they would hone in that skill of learning how to assess and evaluate both print and digital resources. And the program would also hit on digital learning as students would be using digital tools and applications to help them learn. The program would also hit on several ELA RTs for third and fourth grade, such as with the research component, they would be practicing how to understand the main idea of text, synthesize information, and they would work on writing through creating the scripts. They would also practice public speaking whenever they are presenting the information and more things like that. The proposed budget would be $2,250. This is substantial, but this would include all of the studio equipment that we would need. So, Padcaster, a website, sells a studio kit for $1,800 that includes microphones, headphones, camera lenses, tripod, even a green screen, basically anything that we can think of that we would need to do either a podcast or some kind of morning show or news channel for the school. We would have lots of options to implement more kinds of audio visual production in the future if this club ends up being successful. So um, with that kit, it requires an iPad, which the library already owns, and we could also use Adobe Premiere Pro to do all of the video editing, so we wouldn't have to purchase that as well. I'm also requesting $180 to get an extra microphone kit so that we can have two hosts, and then the stick microphone that comes in the studio kit could be used for special guests and things like that. And then the remainder of the funds are to cover shipping costs. The target audience are third and fourth grade students. Students in these grades have shown an interest in technology based library programs. I've had several kids asking how they can improve their technology skills, and not so many words, but asking a lot about the maker spaces and how we can acquire new technology. And the kids in this grade will also benefit academically and personally from this program because they're at the age where they are starting to really get into their writing and research, and they can practice that in a fun, informal environment, and that can translate into their studies. So, some of the benefits of this program is that it will be student centered. Um, the experience is meant to empower the kids and encourage them to take ownership in their learning. So, the kids will be in charge. We, as the teachers, will be there to facilitate and like with the information literacy, give them some guidance on how to make sure that they're accessing credible resources, and we can be there for some technological help. But for the most part, we are going to encourage the students to play around with things and try and figure out what works for themselves so that they can have those authentic learning experiences. And then once they accomplish it, they're really going to feel like they've achieved a great task because they figured out how to create a podcast by themselves. So students will also gain technological skills or technical skills by operating the equipment and editing the podcast in Adobe Premiere Pro. Students will become more familiar with this technology, and hopefully it will they will develop skills in video production that may lead them into future activities or even future careers in this field or dealing with technology. So students will also develop research writing and speaking skills by preparing and performing the podcast themselves, and they will improve their information literacy skills and practice ethical use of information. Overall, the goal of this club is to empower learners and help them to develop technical skills and build their confidence and stretch their creativity. So, the research shows that technology can have many potential benefits for student learning, like it allows them to create knowledge in new ways and to have creative modes of representation or um, distributing that knowledge, such as through podcasting. Technology can also help shift the balance away from a student or a teacher centered, like formal learning environment towards a student centered informal learning environment, which helps empower the kids and enables them to be more creative and innovative and to really take charge of their learning. So, one study found that a major challenge to giving students this technology that can be beneficial in their learning is the lack of educator support. So, whether that be for budgetary reasons or because their educators aren't quite open to change, unfortunately, some educators are standing in the way of students learning more and being able to be more innovative and creative in their studies. So, we are proposing that we steer far away from that line of thinking and make sure that students have the technology that they need and are given the freedom to use it. Another study showed that students who created a newspaper for class benefited academically, socially, and civically. So students use the technology responsibly as like a tool of journalism, and they reported that it made them feel more professional and helped them to think about ethical issues and honor their responsibilities, such as meeting deadlines, and it helped them practice their research skills. So a program such as the one that we're proposing can be multifaceted and benefit the students in many different ways. Another study found that audiovisual materials can improve teaching and learning, especially at the primary level, by again creating that learner centric environment and helping students to become active participants in their classrooms. And whenever the technology is used well, it tends to make the learning experience more pleasurable, which increases student participation. And in an article by Evans et al., a team of teachers created a project where students had to write songs and create a podcast during the pandemic once their school went virtual. And they found that the writing experience for the project taught ELA skills and skills like reflection and revision on the students' own work and the work of their classmates. And it also helped the kids emotionally to work through some of the tough feelings that they were having, and having that creative outlet um, really helped those kids during that difficult time. So, with our program, we are wanting to see results both academically and personally. So, part of how we would evaluate the success of this program is through data collection from the ELAR teachers. So, thinking about how the students performed in class around the middle of the year and the end of the year, kind of gauging where they're at and see if there's a correlation between the students who were in the AV production club and students who are not, and see if there's any increase in the average achievement levels of the students who were in the class to see if those writing and research skills were being translated into their ELAR class. Another way that we want to evaluate the program is to see how students personally feel about it, to see if they feel more confident and if they feel like they had an adequate creative outlet for their thoughts and feelings. And so we want to have some student reflection surveys, again, probably halfway through the year to see where we're at and how we could improve for the second semester. And then again at the end to think about if we're to go forward with this program for another year, how could we make it better and increase student satisfaction. And then if possible, we would love to gather long-term data on the club's students to see on average like how many more or if there's any kind of correlation between kids who went into technology or audiovisual production careers or even just activities of that nature versus like how many of those students were in the club back in third and fourth grade versus the ones who are not. So that's may not be possible, but it would be very interesting to see if there are long term effects to from having kids in this program. So there are a list of some of those sources, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.